First of all, I think I have to start recording. Now the class is on record. So good morning. Today we are going to discuss the types of discourses. And I'll start by sharing my screen. Types of discourses. This is a follow-up to our last week's class on definitions. Now, before I proceed, I need to be sure that you guys are hearing what I'm saying. So am I audible?
Yes.
Yes, please.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's beautiful.
Yes.
Now we proceed. Types of discourses. So what is a discourse? Sometimes when we write, we put individual sentences together for different purposes. Now a collection of sentences is called a passage or a discourse. So when you put individual sentences together, you have a passage. We can also call it a discourse. We shall distinguish passages that are arguments and those that are not. Now, a discourse is called an argument if it contains a claim or conclusion that is supported with reasons or information. So basically, an argument contains at least two items. An argument, first of all, needs to have a conclusion, which could also be a claim or distinction, like I explained last time. And then apart from a conclusion, an argument also needs to have expressions that are aimed at providing support or proof for the conclusion, claim, or decision. So to know that you are looking at an argument, you first of all need to be able to identify a conclusion in the passage. And then you also need to see that such a conclusion is surrounded by expressions that are trying to support it, that are trying to provide support, that are trying to provide reasons for it, that are trying to provide evidence for the conclusion, or that are trying to provide information that warranted the conclusion. So that's basically how you spot an argument in a passage. First of all, you need to be able to identify a conclusion. Without a conclusion, there's no argument. If you identify a conclusion, by looking at a sentence, you'll be able to tell that it is a conclusion. Okay. If you have identified a conclusion, then the next thing is to find out if the conclusion has other sentences or expressions that are providing support for it. Okay, so let's say an example of an argument. Ghanaian men think women don't deserve to occupy high positions. That's statement one. Statement two, they question the and qualification of women who are sent to high office, but refrain from doing same to even incompetent men. That's statement two. Statement three, therefore, Ghanaian men do not respect women. So we have three statements. Notice that the above passage has three statements. Statements 1 and 2 are serving as information, evidence, or reasons to support statement 3. For attempting to support statement 3, these statements are called premises. So statements 1 and 2 are premises. Statement 3, which is being supported, is called conclusion. So statement 3 is the conclusion. If you look at the three statements again, you can tell from the nature of statement 3 that it is a conclusion. You can see that statement 3 begins with the word therefore. Therefore suggests a conclusion. But we'll see more of that right now. Identifying arguments. Now we need to learn how to identify arguments in a passage. How do you identify arguments? First of all, there are certain words or phrases that immediately tell you you are looking at a conclusion or a premise. So we have premise indicators and we have conclusion indicators. Now, the following words will immediately tell you you are looking at a premise or you are looking at premises. For, when a sentence begins with for, or granted that, or in view of the fact that, or in as much as, or a sentence begins with the word since, you know it is a premise. Or a sentence starts by saying it is a fact that, then it means someone is providing an information that, wants to lead to certain conclusions. One cannot doubt that. One cannot doubt that. Sentences, premises normally provide evidence. The job of premises is to provide reasons or information or evidence. So when you are trying to provide evidence, you can start, the tendency is to begin with phrases like, it is a fact that, or one cannot doubt that. Those are evidence-based sentences, or sentences that aim to provide evidence. And then if a sentence begins with because it is a premise, it is most likely a premise. Or the reason is that. The reason is that. Now, when a sentence begins with the reason is that, automatically you are looking at a premise, because the function of premises is to provide reasons for conclusions. So a sentence that says the reason is that, automatically you know you are not only looking at a premise, but it also suggests that another sentence is a conclusion. There must be a conclusion in the passage where you see that, as shown by the fact that. When you see a sentence beginning with the phrase as shown by the fact that, it means that the sentence is, first of all, trying to support a conclusion, and it is trying to support it by providing facts. So all these are words or phrases that indicate that you are looking at a premise, or you're looking at premises. Then we have conclusion indicators. These words or phrases indicate you are looking at a conclusion. Therefore, consequently, hence, certain that, for this reason, for this reason. Remember, among the premise indicators, we had seen a phrase, the reason is that. The reason is that. That's a premise. And then when you see for this reason, that's a conclusion. Accordingly, consequently, this being so. In the example we saw of an argument, the conclusion began with therefore. Let's look at it again. Statement 3 says, therefore, Ghanaian men do not respect women. Now, for statement 3, you can replace therefore with any of the other conclusion indicators. You can say, consequently, Ghanaian men do not respect women, or you can say, for this reason, or for these reasons, or you can say accordingly. Okay. Now we go to non-argument. Not every passage or cluster of propositions is an argument. Some passages are non-arguments, including narratives, instructional passages, and then rhetorical polemic or opinion. So we'll look at each of these three briefly. Narrative. A narrative is a passage that reports a sequence of events according to the order the events occurred. A passage reporting a sequence of events according to the order they occurred. Now, example, over the course of 2 weeks, some police officers have been observed stopping and checking cars in the area between Sawam and Anyimnam on the Accra Kumasi Road. They extort money and abuse motorists who question their authority. Brandishing AK-47 assault rifles and dressed in heavy police gear, these officers do not just check cars, they also assault some motorists and passengers. This is a narrative. It is just filled with factual statements. A narrative is also a collection of factual statements. Factual statements that present the order of an event. This is the easiest type of passage to identify. You just identify a collection of story-like statements. Instructional passage. An instructional passage is a passage that describes a process or sequence of things to do in a specific order. It offers a list of directives to follow in order to accomplish some desired effects. The example below offers a list of directives on how to use a fire extinguisher. Example, pull the pin, aim the nozzle at the base of the fire. Aiming at the top of the flame with the extinguisher won't be effective. In a controlled manner, squeeze the trigger to release the agent. Sweep the nozzle from side to side until the fire is put out. So this is an instructional passage. It is just a collection of imperatives. A collection of imperatives that describes a sequence of things to do. A sequence of things to do. So whilst a narrative is a collection of factual statements that shows a sequence of events, an instructional passage is a collection of imperatives that shows a sequence of what is to be done. Rhetorical polemic. This is a passage communicating a usually strong feeling and persuasively venting an opinion. So a rhetorical polemic is just a collection of emotive expressions. For example, I hate these lab tests. Every time I'm exposed to the plants, I fall ill. I'm sure they hate me or they are punishing me or something. It's disgusting how I get sick so often. Now, by looking at each of these sentences, you can see that most of them are emotive expressions. The first one is an emotive expression. I hate these lab tests. The second one is a claim. Every time I'm exposed to the disease plants, I fall ill. So that's a claim. The third one, I'm sure they hate me. It's an emotive expression. The fourth sentence is disgusting how I get sick. It's also an emotive expression. So you have 4 emotive expressions, 1 claim. So a rhetorical polemic is usually a collection of emotive expressions that might contain a claim. Usually you might need to make a claim in the midst of your emotive expression so that someone understands what you are actually talking about. So for that reason, a rhetorical polemic is most likely a claim surrounded by emotive expressions. And then an argument, by contrast, is a conclusion or claim surrounded by reasons or evidence. So you can get a claim in a rhetorical polemic as well as an argument. The difference between the two kinds of passages is in what kinds of expressions are surrounding the claim. Is it emotive expressions, or is it reasons for the claim? So if you make a claim and then you surround it with emotive expressions, that's a rhetorical polemic. But if you make a claim and then you surround it with reasons, supporting reasons, or evidence or information, then that's an argument. So that's the basic difference between an argument and a rhetorical polemic. Some exercises. Name 4 types of discourses studied in this chapter. What is an argument? List the components of an argument, distinguish between an argument and a rhetorical. So someone should answer the first. I need people to answer each of these 4 questions immediately. So who volunteered to answer these questions? One person at a time.
Okay, so
Yes.
I'll answer the question 3.
Go ahead.
Okay, it claim, reason, support, and warrant.
The 3rd question.
Yes. The component of argument.
Components of an argument. You said it's
Claim, reason, support, and warrant.
Yeah, but you are listing the reason, support, and warrants as if they are different components.
I don't get you, say.
I said you are listing the reason, support, and warrants as if they are different components. How many components? An argument has how many components?
Say 4.
That's where you got it wrong. An argument has 2 components. The other three things you listed are actually 1 component. So basically you have a claim that is supported with reasons, information, or evidence. So the second component can come in 2 forms. There are actually 2 forms, not 3, because the information serves as a reason, the evidence also serves as a reason. So when you talk about reasons, information, and evidence, you're actually talking about 2 things. The other 2 are forms of reasons. A reason could be, an information could be a reason, and then a piece of evidence could be a reason, So the 2 components of an argument are, first of all, a conclusion, and then reasons, just conclusion and reasons. The reasons could come in different forms. The reasons could come in a form of, further claims, or maybe information, or evidence, whatever you are using to support the claim. So they are just 2 components of an argument.
Oh, okay. So say the question 1.
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to give it a try.
Or let someone.
I think it's
allow,
argument, right?
Yes.
Argument and narration.
Yeah, that's just 2 types of discourses. We have more.
And description.
No. So maybe you should allow Grace Ashie to answer it. Grace, can you answer number 1? Either Grace or Mensa or Precious.
Lesson 1. The four types of discourse. We have a narrative, instructions, rhetorical, polemic, and argument.
Okay, that's good. So that's correct. So that's for mental. And then we're left with what? Let me see. Number 2, or question 2.
Question 2.
Yes, question 2. Sorry, I'm coming.
An argument. Okay.
Go ahead.
An argument is a claim or a conclusion which is surrounded by a collection of reasons.
Yes, that's good. So now I need to elaborate on that a little bit. A claim or conclusion that is surrounded by reasons. Why I say surrounded is because in an argument, you can have the premises before the conclusion. Sometimes you can have the premises after the conclusion. You can start by saying a few things and then you conclude, or you can start by making a claim and then say you are making this claim because of the following reasons. In that case, the claim or conclusion is coming before the premises. So it is either the premises are coming before the conclusion or the conclusion is coming before the premises. Whichever way it is, you can just say it is surrounded. Sometimes some premises can come before the conclusion and other ones will come after it. So they can come in any order. And so what is just important is to know that there must be a conclusion and then there must be reasons for it. You know. Okay, so that's fine. What about question 4? Distinguish between argument and rhetorical polemic. Yeah, Grace, you raised your hand. So now we have Precious.
So the argument is surrounded by a collection of reasons, while the rhetorical polemic is surrounded by motive expressions.
Okay, so the argument is surrounded by reasons, whilst for the rhetorical polemic, in an argument, the conclusion is surrounded by reasons. But in a rhetorical polemic, a claim is surrounded by emotive expression. So I think that's perfect. That's fine. So that's it for this exercise. Let's quickly go ahead and do some other things before we conclude. So we're done with the exercise. This is another topic. Verbal and real disputes. Verbal and real disputes. Verbal disputes. Disagreement about the meaning of a word or words. Let me see. I need to, please mute yourselves. Let me mute everyone. I have just muted everyone. And if I mute you, please don't unmute until it is time for our next exercises. And of course, if you have questions, just write them down so that you can ask them when it is time for questions. So we have verbal and real disputes. Now, most of the disagreements in this world arise because someone in the dispute doesn't understand the proper meaning of a word. Most of the arguments in this world, or majority of the arguments in this world, arise because one of the contestants does not understand the proper meaning of a word or words. So we call them verbal disputes. A verbal dispute or a verbal disagreement is a disagreement about the meaning of a word or words. For example, that man is a Fanti. And then someone says, no, he's an Akan. So this becomes an argument. Someone is saying, no, that man is a fancy. The other person is saying, no, he's an Akan. So why do we have this disagreement? We have it because the second person doesn't understand that an Akan, a fancy, is an Akan. So all we need to resolve this argument is to inform the second person that a fancy is an Akan. And then the disagreement evaporates or it disappears. Let's see another example. She is a Christian because she receives Holy Communion. No, she's not a Christian because she does not speak in tongues. So this argument arises because of a lack of a clear understanding of what being a Christian is. What is it to be a Christian? Is it when you receive Holy Communion that you are a Christian, or is it when you speak in tongues that you are a Christian? So it arises because of lack of understanding of what being a Christian is. So it is a verbal dispute. You resolve it by simply pointing out what it means to be a Christian. At what point do you say someone is a Christian? What will someone do to earn the qualification of a Christian? That needs to be spelled out clearly. And then this disagreement will just disappear. It will simply evaporate like steam. You know. So these are clearly verbal disputes. And we are saying that a lot of disputes out there are in this form. They arise because of the lack of clear meaning of words. So many of the disagreements in this world can actually be resolved by a clarification of terms. That is why in many philosophical articles, you see them beginning with a clarification of terms. You see a typical philosophy article, it will begin by, if for instance, you see an article discussing democracy or discussing, first of all, the writer will begin at the beginning by clarifying what she means by democracy. When she has done that very clearly, then she will proceed from there in a very logical manner to discuss the term. You'll notice she's doing that because she wants to avoid misunderstanding, unnecessary misunderstanding about what she's discussing. So such a person is avoiding a verbal dispute. Then we have what we call the real dispute. When you have shifted away the verbal disputes, then we are left with the real ones. A real dispute is a substantive disagreement about facts or values. So we call them real or substantive disputes or disagreements. Example one. The example one is a dispute about facts. Example one, Accra is the capital of Ghana. No, Kumasi is the capital of Ghana. That's a factual dispute. Now, this might not seem like a dispute to you because you know the capital of Ghana. But what if we are discussing the capital of Myanmar? How many of you know the capital of Myanmar? So we have factual disputes when we are not very sure of the facts. So in such disputes, you end the dispute by verifying the facts or ascertaining which facts are the correct ones. So you go on a factual investigation. Example two is a dispute about values. Example two, Accra should be the capital of Ghana. And then no, Accra should not be the capital of Ghana. So this is a value dispute. So value disputes are resolved by asking people to list the reasons why they prefer a certain value. There's certain Why list the reasons why they are making a certain preference. Why do you prefer Accra to be the capital of Ghana? What are your reasons? And then the person offers his reasons. And then the second person, why do you think that Accra shouldn't be the capital of Ghana? The person has to list her reasons. Then we examine the two lists of reasons side by side and then see which ones are, so that's how you deal with value disputes. You deal with value disputes by examining the reasons people are offering for their preferences. But for factual disputes, you resolve it by simply verifying the facts. That's all. Alberta, you were raising your hand.
Yes, sir. Sir, good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Yeah, please, can you say that a debate is an example of a real dispute based on the example two?
A debate.
In the sense that one can be for the motion and then the other can be against the motion. So that's all.
uh, the first thing I missed, the first thing you asked about the debate. Are you asking whether debates are factual or value disputes?
Yes, based on the example two, can you say that a debate is an example of a factual dispute, like real dispute?
Well, most debates are examples of value disagreements, because in most debates are about what should be done or what should not be done. If, for instance, there's a debate about whether we should be running a parliament of two chambers. Now, a parliament of two chambers is a parliament that has a Senate and also has a House of Representatives. Right now, Ghana is running a chamber that has just one chamber. You call them members of parliaments, but many other countries have a parliament that has two chambers. The upper chamber is called the Senate, and the members are called senators. And then the lower chamber is called the House of Representatives, and they are called, the members are called the honorable members, So that's a two chamber. So if there is a debate about whether we should have a parliament of two chambers, that's a value dispute because each side is expected to provide a list of reasons why, why they prefer what they prefer. Precious.
So, which one is the value dispute?
The value dispute, but that's what we've been discussing.
The real dispute is the value dispute.
Yeah, it's a real dispute.
And the factual dispute.
Yeah, factual and value disputes are the real disputes. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, so these are the real disputes. The factual disputes are disputes. The real disputes are, the value disputes are also real disputes. And then the ones that are not real disputes are disputes that were generated from insufficient understanding of the meaning of words. So you remember we did factual statements, value judgments, and definitions. So those disputes or disagreements that arise from improper definition are verbal disputes. And then those disputes that arise from lack of verification of facts or presenting the wrong facts, and they are real disputes. And then those ones that arise from differences in value judgments, they're also real disputes. Some exercises. Determine whether the following disagreement is verbal or real. Sandra says, that man is quite old. He died at 50. And then Comfort says, you call that old? He died young. Is this a verbal or real dispute?
It is a real dispute. It's a real dispute.
Okay, so why is it a real dispute?
Real dispute.
So why is it a real dispute?
Sir.
Go ahead.
Sir, because the man old, he died at, it's a fact. The man died at 50, so he's old. So it's a fact. And Comfort is disagreeing with the fact that the man is old. So it's a real dispute.
When you disagree with the fact that someone who died at 50 is old, do you call that a real dispute?
Verbal.
Sir, please, can I talk?
Let me see. Prince.
Sir, Prince. Yeah. Sir, it's a verbal dispute because they all are having a misunderstanding about the when young and old. Yeah.
Okay. So what about you, Anita? You, Anita, have you spoken? You, Anita, you raised your hand.
Open my drawer.
What about Samuela Champong?
Sir, please, the question has been answered.
Okay, good. So I wanted to the other opinion before I make my own contribution. So if you disagree with the fact that someone who died at 50 died old, let me see. Someone just raised his hand now. Is that? Let me see. Is that Na?
Hello, sir. Good morning.
Yeah. Good morning.
I think it's a verbal dispute because Sandra didn't clarify what she meant by the man dying dying old at 50. And Comfort is also not making substantial reason like what she meant by someone dying young. So that's the difference. They are finding difficulties in understanding what each other meant by dying young or dying old. That's what I think.
Okay, that's fine. What about Samuel Techi?
Please, I think it's a real dispute because they are judging their values. Sandra thinks the value of
You need to raise the volume of your microphone.
okay, sir, please. I said I think it's a real dispute because Sandra's value of old is that he died at 50, and Comfort's value of old is that Comfort's value of the age he died is that he died young. So I think it's a real value dispute.
Now, is age a value?
No, so not the age being the value, but the old.
Now, old means age. So the question is whether age itself is a value, or if I might not be accurate, but I think whether being old at a particular age is a value or a perception. What about Deco Wolanyo?
Sir, I
Yes.
think it's about because Sandra here says is old, but Comfort is disagreeing about the age.
Okay, that's fine. What about Selom? Selom, you can go ahead.
I think that it is a verbal because both Comfort and Sandra have different perceptions of what old is.
So that means that the meaning of being old is under
Yes.
contestation.
Yes, sir.
Now raise the hand again. What do you want to say?
So please, I wanted like to the question he asked my colleague, is old a value? I wanted to see something about say that in certain cases it's considered old age is considered a value the when the activities or the things the person did on earth was impactful in the society. Like someone dies at age 39 and they know he was a good person doing good works. They cherish it and it hurts them. But when someone dies at 98 and is still doing these things or did something wrong, they don't really consider it as a value. But in some cases, we consider it valuable. That's what I think.
Yes, that's why I was saying that I might be inaccurate by asking that question, because I think old age is certainly a value. Age itself is a value, but the question is, what what age is termed old age? So what exactly is the meaning of old age? Because old age is supposed to be an age we attain at a certain time in life. And what is it? So I think the dispute is about the meaning of old age. So Eddie.
Sir, good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Sir, in support of what Nana said, that's why I see when someone dies young, they put gone too soon. But when someone dies of old age, they write on the posters a life well lived.
Yeah, she has already said that. So what do you want to add?
Yeah, so sir, I think old age is a value. That's
We have already
because
said that.
okay, so I was just supporting the
Yeah,
point.
so old age is a value, but at what year do we say someone is old? That's
So I
what.
think after 60 years, 60 years. Because 60 years is when people retire.
That means that you will be taking comfort's position that here the man died young.
Probably, sir.
What about someone who believes that to die at 50 is to die old? Can you determine that the person is wrong? But then that's by the way. I think the major issue is that there is a disagreement about what year is old age, and that's a disagreement about what old age means. Kennedy, no, wait, before Kennedy, Edward had raised his hand.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning.
I am very much concerned about whatever we are discussing over here, which is what it's meant to be old age in our discussion. And I think there isn't any specification for what old age is, as in which specific year should we call old age. But then in this context, what Sandra is trying to say is that the man is quite old and she believes the man died at the age of 50. That is to her belief. Someone who attained 50 years is, or can be called an old person. And then Comfort is also saying that you call that old. He died young. So looking at this context, you can see that both of them had their own belief. That's why we want to associate this to what we call real dispute. Thank you.
Yeah, a belief that 50 is old and a conflicting belief that 50 is young doesn't come across as a difference in belief, because, or rather, a difference in values. I think it comes across as a difference in perceptions of old age. when you say you believe that 40 years is old age, and someone says she believes that 70 years is old age, it might look like a value dispute, but it is a dispute about what old age means. So what is old age? That's what the dispute is about. Bernard.
Yes, sorry for coming back again. But that's why I'm saying that there isn't any specification for which particular year should be called old age. So this whole
Sir,
discussion.
Is there any specification about whether Accra should be the capital of Ghana and whether it should not?
Yes, that one, yes.
sir, please, Bernard, please, can I go on?
Yeah, just hang on a few seconds because I'm trying to address the questions on.
Okay, sir.
When you say Accra should be the capital and someone say they should not, are they not also conflicting beliefs?
You know, Accra is the capital because it's a factual thing that we all know.
No, I'm not talking about whether it is a fact. I'm asking why it should be the capital. We know it is a fact, but we are discussing whether it should be.
Okay, for that one, I can't tell. I can't tell.
No, but you should tell, because if someone believes that Accra should not,
because it's the center.
What do you mean by center? Is
it center of Ghana?
No, Accra is not the center of Ghana. No.
So if someone believes that it should not be the capital, is that
okay?
Not?
Okay, the one that is believing that Accra should be the capital of Ghana, I will side with that person because that is the seat of
We're not talking about taking sides. We're talking about whether it is a verbal dispute.
Okay, so that one, I'll come back again to discuss that one. But then,
because it looks similar to your argument that the two positions about the man who died are conflicting beliefs, and you are saying that for the reason that they are conflicting beliefs, they have. But I was also thinking that a belief, not necessarily a value. What some of the things we call beliefs could actually be perceptions. So in this case, the perception of what old age is the problem. What exactly it would be.
Yes, sir. But then it is not a problem for us to know that Accra is the capital of Ghana.
That is a strong man. You are trying to bail yourself out by relying on the fact that Accra is actually the capital. What if we are asking whether in a new country we are designing where the capital should be, and some people believe a certain town should be the capital, others believe it should not. Doesn't it apply to what I'm saying?
Yeah, it applies to whatever.
When some new regions were being created, I think some years ago, weren't there debates about which towns in those new regions should be the capital of the regions?
It is so, sir.
So you don't bail yourself out by telling me that Accra is the capital of Ghana.
Okay, sir.
And the example you are using that the arguments about old age are beliefs. So I'm trying to say that beliefs, calling them beliefs doesn't necessarily or simply just make them make it a value dispute. There's something more to it. Okay, so Bernard, was it Bernard who was trying to speak?
Yeah. All right, say yes, please, Bernard.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, please. It's Bernard. Say.
Go ahead.
Sir, please, can I go on?
Yes, go on.
All right. Sir, please, for statistical purposes, normally they use 60 and above for old age. When you look at the Ghana Statistical Service, they use 60 and above for old age, and then 50 is not old age because it's kind of you've not retired yet. You are still in the government sector, so 50 years is not let me say old age. Yes.
Yeah, but that statistics is
so that is what I add to the let me see the discussion.
That's fine. But would you say it has become a factual disagreement?
Being factual is kind of not, but at least to serve as maybe education to everybody.
Yeah,
everybody can have a let me say disagreement to it, but for maybe a consensus, they've agreed on 60.
Yes, but that's because they've seen the what do you call it? They've seen the average lifespan of a Ghanaian or someone in Ghana. If, for instance, our average lifespan in this part of the world is something like 80, the average, if the average of is 80 or probably even 70, then they can go and fix 60 as old age. But what about some countries where people are living up to 120, 150, like Puerto Rico? I think in Puerto Rico, they normally die at between 120 and 150. Now,
And Italy,
that country, what age are they going to fix as old? Would they fix as old? So you see that.
I'm sure that
go ahead.
Yes, I'm sure that yes, because the old age, they look at you being active. If maybe after let me say 60 years, you cannot be active as you are maybe in, that is 50. It means you are old. That is why maybe they started from 60. Because when you are 120 in, as in you were saying, maybe Italy or Puerto Rico, that 120, let me say, man cannot be active as usual when it was, let me say, 40 or 50. So I think that they use 60 because by 60 years, you wouldn't be active as you were.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point. Another thing is that, you are alive as long as all your body organs are working, and as long as you are still able to do things, you are still able to. When you go to countries where people live up to 150, it is likely that even by 80 they are still very strong, as strong as those who are 50 in countries where they are dying at 80.
Yes.
Yes, that is very likely. So
wow.
So that means that the fixing of old age at certain ages is still a matter of
it's unclear.
Yes,
it's still a matter of meaning and perception.
Okay.
All right, so I think we've spent by now. I wanted this debate to last a little long so that you can thoroughly understand how to identify verbal and substantive disputes. When you see a dispute about a fact, that is the easiest to identify. And then when you see a dispute about preferences, people's what people value more, this way or that way, that's a value dispute. And then when you see a dispute about something that is not clear, whose meaning is not clear, then you have to call that a verbal dispute. All right, so let me see. I think that's the end of our class today. For our next, I'm going to send you. I'm going to modify our Zoom classes so that it will be twice a week. So I'll resend the same link back to you. I'll resend you the same link It wouldn't be a new link. It will be the same link. And then in the modification, you see 2 classes per week. All right. So do we have any questions before we close?
So
now, all these hands that are raised, those that raised it because of our discussion of verbal disputes, you have to lower your hand so that I'll see those who have other fresh questions to ask.
please send, can we have, please can send.
Only those who have questions to ask, raise your hands.
Sir, please.
Samuel, take
Please, verbal speech.
Samuel,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
go ahead.
Please. Okay, sir. So my question is, in identifying what type of dispute it is it that you have to identify what the subject of the dispute is? Because for the brain teaser we just did, I thought it was talking about value, but it seems the focus was word old. So is it that you have to like find the subject in the both of the sentences that are there?
Let me see. It should be easy to identify what is the subject of a disagreement by looking at what, for instance, when Sandra says that someone who died at 50 died old, and someone says that that is not old, that is young, then you know that the issue of whether 50 is young or old is the subject of the dispute. So you should be able to identify the subject of disputes, and then you ask yourself whether the subject is a disagreement in the meaning of the word, or a disagreement in facts, or a disagreement in values. And by values, we have moral values, we have non-moral values. Then Kwame.
Sir.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sir, please, me. I think Sandra wasn't certain about the oath because she said that the man is quite old.
You said Sandra did what?
She wasn't certain about the oath.
But if someone says you are quite old, quite means that you are considerably old.
Okay.
But it's fine. Your point is appreciated because it's. I don't think any of them will be very certain about because none of us actually is certain about what year is old age. You know.
Yes.
So, Deku. Yes.
Please, my question is the example you gave under the verbal dispute. The first example, he said man is a fancy, and no, he's an can. Are they trying to are they disagreeing about the meaning of the fancy and then akan? I don't get it.
Yeah, you don't get it because you are a Ghanaian. But what if 2 British women are making that involved in that dispute? What if 2 Russians in Russia are involved in that dispute? Is it not a dispute?
Okay, so it will be a dispute, but they won't disagree about it without knowing the meaning.
Yeah, they don't know the meaning because they are in Russia. So they need to go on the internet to Google up and find out if a Fante is an Akan. You know, so the second person hasn't done that. The person who says that a Fante. I'm trying to. Okay, so the person who says that someone is not a fancy, is an akan, has not found out whether a fancy is an akan. So she's arguing out of ignorance. So that's why it's a verbal dispute, you know. But because you are in Ghana, you already know that a fancy is an akan. It wouldn't be a dispute to you, but it could be a dispute to some other people around the world. Edward.
Thank you, sir. Sir, there is this statement I came across. It says that winning an argument all the time does not mean you are right all the time. Sir, my question is that what is the purpose of arguing? Is it not to come out with what is right all the time in a way of clarifying things?
We argue because of our differences. When someone has a position that is different from yours, then you are obliged to provide reasons for your position, whilst the other person does the same. That is the reason for disagreements. Most of the time, we argue to see which position is correct, but in most cases, you cannot identify a position that is correct. You know, there are certain issues where you don't have a correct answer.
Okay, thank you.
Even if there is a dispute in such areas, it doesn't necessarily mean that the dispute is going to end up with what we all know as correct. For instance, a dispute about whether we should permit same-sex marriage or whether we should outlaw same-sex marriage. Which one is the correct one? We don't really know. A dispute about whether, you know, there are such topics where the correct and the incorrect is not very clear.
Okay.
Whether we should practice majoritarian democracy where the majority carries the vote, or whether we should practice consensus democracy where everyone has to be on the same page before we can move ahead. You know, that kind of dispute, how do you know, that the one that is very correct? Each of them has their advantages and disadvantages, and you can, keep looking at those, comparing those advantages and disadvantages for a very long time.
Okay, so sir, if I would say in my own way, argument is just for us to know what is in this person's mind based on whatever the person is having.
Yes, like I said, argument is good because that is how we present our differences to one another.
Okay,
You have to present the reason why you have a certain belief or position, and then the other person has to do the same. Then both of you can begin to check which one is better. In most cases, if there is no clear better one, then sometimes both of you can arrive at a kind of hybrid or a synthesis. Both of you can arrive at a third position that is better than both of your positions. In that case, there's a synthesis.
So I believe that is why we couldn't determine whether the following disagreement is verbal or real. The scenario or the statement
their disagreement is verbal. It is not real.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Thank you.
Being old at 50 or being old at 70 is not a real disagreement.
Okay.
Not a real disagreement. If you say it's a real disagreement, where did you get your information that 70 or 50 is old? So it's not a real disagreement because nobody knows which one is old. Different countries can fix different markers for old age. Some countries can say that 50 in their country is old. Some can say 90 in their country is old and all those things. But it is not inherent in a particular age that it is old age, because age really depends on how well you are feeding, the condition of your environment, how long your strength lasts. Some people remain strong till 90. Some are no longer strong by 50. So there are different durations of human strength. So because of that, you can never have a particular age that is old age for everyone.
Okay.
So any dispute about old age, what old age means, that dispute remains a dispute about meaning, and I don't think the meaning can be definite.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, Grace. Was it Grace who raised her hand? But before Grace, you had Victoria.
Sir,
Yes.
please, with regards to the meeting twice in a week, are we going to meet twice in Fridays or?
Those who meet on Fridays will add Wednesdays to their meetings. Those who meet on Fridays will add Wednesdays, and those who meet on Saturdays will add Thursdays.
Okay, so those we meeting on again on Wednesday.
Yeah, those who meet on Fridays would meet at the same time on Wednesdays, and those who meet on Saturdays will
Hello, sir.
meet at the same time on Thursdays.
Okay, thank you.
So if it clashes with any of your other classes, you have to watch the video.
Okay, sir.
Grace. And that's the last.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sir, please, can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Sir, please, I want to get something clear. You said per your explanations, you were like, wherever disputes happen when one party does not or lacks understanding of a matter and can be resolved by clarifying or explaining explaining what maybe that thing is. So I wanted to ask for the let me use the example. I think yes, that man is a fancy. No, he's an Akan. So for someone who is not in Ghana, for we Ghanaians, we know that Akans are fancy. At least most of us know that if you're an fancies are Akans, okay, let me put it that way. But for someone outside, the person doesn't know. So in order for the person to get his to understand the meaning of Akans, he has to get his facts right.
Yeah, for the person, the person who says that a Fanti is not an Akan is the party that needs to do her research for the dispute to be resolved.
Yes. So my question is that for verbal disputes, in order for you to understand what maybe the subject or what the main issue or the main problem in the dispute is, you have to first get your facts right. You have to first know what you are talking about before you can, I don't know, clarify or resolve the issue. So I was asking, when getting so how do you differentiate between like the two? Because in verbal, okay, in the real dispute, you have to make sure that in order for you to resolve, like you have to present reasonable facts in order for you to resolve the issue. But in the same verbal dispute, even though you have to understand what the subject or the problem is, you still have to get facts back in. You have to understand your problem by getting facts to back it up. So if you understand. So I want to understand like how to differentiate between the two.
Yes, when you look at the argument that a Fanti is not that a Fanti is not an Akan, it's about the meaning of being a Fanti. That is, I understand your question, but the verbal dispute is because someone is working with the wrong meaning of a word. So when you are arguing about a word as if it means something differently from what it actually means. So you need to get your facts correct, but that argument is a verbal dispute. You know. Yeah, but when you are arguing that a certain fact, that when you are denying a fact, such as that a capital city is not actually a capital city, that one is more clearly a factual disagreement. So it depends on the way the two arguments are unfolding. One argument is unfolding because someone has a wrong meaning of a concept. The other one is unfolding because the person doesn't possess knowledge of the facts. So if you are outrightly denying it as a fact, then it's a factual dispute. But if you are arguing as if it means something else apart from what it should mean, then it's a verbal dispute. So it depends on the precise wording or the precise wording of the arguments. So although you might need to go to verify the facts in a verbal dispute in order to confirm that you are the person who is wrong in a verbal dispute, but it is a verbal dispute because you were arguing because you didn't have the proper meaning of the word. So even if getting the proper meaning means getting the proper facts or looking at the proper dictionary or whatever it is, the point is that the meaning you had of that concept was wrong. So it is about meaning in the context of a specific argument. So I don't know if you understand what I mean. It is not that you cannot settle a verbal dispute by ascertaining facts. It is that a verbal dispute is a verbal dispute because of the way the dispute was unfolding. It was unfolding because one of the parties did not have the proper meaning of a word. So it is irrespective of whether she needs to get the proper meaning by consulting a dictionary or by ascertaining the facts. Yeah, so at this point, I think we need to, there are no more questions, but I think we need to round up. So expect my modified link to further classes. And I wish you a happy weekend. All right, so goodbye.
Goodbye, sir.
Goodbye, sir.
Goodbye.